Three, two, one. All right, everybody. I want to thank you all for listening to the No Parameters podcast. My guest here with us today, I'm very excited about. He has 20 plus years of experience making music, has a deep understanding and earnest appreciation of how music affects our everyday life. It affects us physiologically, emotionally. Music is life. It is the soundtrack of our lives in ways that we don't even realize. It can be the difference between a horror movie scene being terrifying or falling flat on its face. It's synonymous with some of the biggest businesses and brands around the world. At a young age, he locked himself away in his room and decided to teach himself how to play the guitar. In no time, he was playing the guitar and the keyboard and learning to play his favorite songs by ear. By ear. Superbly talented, already has a growing portfolio of clients that are using his musical prowess to create successful ad campaigns, one of which was recently featured on local television in Louisville, Kentucky. We're excited to welcome our first guest, John Power. How's it going, man?
Wow, that's a pretty cool intro, man. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Well, it is a true story. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind, for everybody that's just learning about you.
I'm kind of interested to hear about myself after the intro. Yeah, where do we start?
Well, why don't you start by telling everybody about what is it that drew you to music that you can remember?
Okay. Let's see. I like the way this is set up because I had no preparation, so this is kind of just going to flow. It's going to take me back. I've seen pictures of myself very little playing violin, playing piano, or at least around those instruments, then played saxophone in the fifth grade band, and then moved to bass guitar for a year or so in middle school, then went to guitar at about seventh grade, and from then on it was just guitar all the way through into college. And then I had a roommate that actually made hip-hop beats, and he introduced me into making beats. So then I went on that path, learning more about hip-hop and how to compose those types of beats.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So eventually combining the two with guitar and other instruments that I could use through digital software. So that's a snapshot.
Right. And so I don't recall, because we go way back, but did you ever have any sort of traditional training? I kind of remember you doing everything just by ear.
Yeah, I learned a lot by ear. The only lessons I took about 7 or 8 lessons when I was in college just to take it further from a guy named Ben Lacey. He's amazing. And that was very instrumental, no pun intended, in my growth in the guitar. A lot was by ear. And I took a semester of classical guitar in college, and it was really challenging for me. I had to read music, this very basic stuff, and I was more just playing with the song and I'll play it back, or let me learn it and I'll just play it. But it was more you have to focus on these simple notes, play these simple tracks, and it's just very challenging for me to go backwards.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I know you sort of dabble across different genres, and you seem to be interested in just about anything. Is there any particular type of music that you seem to gravitate towards?
The easy way to answer that is anything that I feel emotion to. So whether it's if I'm watching a movie or an inspirational movie trailer or listening to a song, it could be any genre or any. If it impacts me, let me ask you this: if you ever listen to music, have you ever experienced chills from listening to music?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So and I would imagine that probably happened more than once, and different songs will do that to you, right?
Yeah, I definitely find that when I'm watching a movie or I'm listening to a song or whatever, sometimes I do get those chills when something strikes me.
Yeah, so it's that. It's whenever it's like, oh man, I'm getting chills. Like, what is happening? Well, what am I experiencing right now? That very thing is like, if I can translate that to someone else, that's like a superpower.
Right.
So it's like the goal. I want to give you chills through making music.
Right. So, like, what is your process? Like, if somebody were to come to you and they say, we want to create music for our ad or advertising, what process do you generally go through to? Because obviously it takes probably a great deal of skill more than other types of music creating because you're going to a client and they're going to have a vision in mind and you're going to try to create something that speaks to them, something that they're going to put their name on and say this represents us. So like what sort of process do you go through when you're trying to create something for someone else?
That's a good question. Let's see. I think it's been different every time. The first one, the jingle that was the Hessig and Cole jingle, that was just like, hey, you have a unique phone number. Let's build off that. I've seen lots of law commercials, and it seems like every commercial has a standard where we want our audience to remember the phone number so they can call it.
Right.
Like, well, let's just build it around the phone number. It's a unique phone number. It stands out. So that was pretty easy. It just kind of stood out.
Right.
I think it's basically what the business wants the audience to know about, how they can be accessed or what they want presented. And I wish there was like an easy way to explain that, but it really just kind of hits. And the day that I figure out how to cultivate creativity into a funnel, that's going to be a happy day for me.
Right. Do you prefer for a company to sort of spell out for you exactly what it is that they want, like, or do you prefer to work just sort of how it, I don't know how to explain it, but just sort of by feeling, like they'll say this is what our company is about, have at it, or do you prefer a lot more direction?
I think I would weigh towards just seeing how I feel about it. If like Mark, if you're a business and you say, hey, let's make some music that represents my company, probably ask you some questions about your customers and what they get from you, or what they ask you, like the most common questions they get from you, like the Connors flooring jingle. I was in a meeting with them and I had some ideas, but it wasn't until they said our number one question is when they come in looking for flooring, they see there's cabinets and there's bathroom models and all this stuff, and the number one thing they say is, we didn't know you did that. So that's something a customer has said to them over and over again, and they're trying to get in the business of selling other things besides flooring. So I built the jingle around, we didn't know you did that. It's just, a conversation they had about their customers.
Right. I wanna play a couple clips from two that you've worked on, so that way people can kind of get a frame of mind of which ones we're talking about, if that's okay.
Sure.
We're gonna play this first one.
502 777 11 11 502 777 11 11 502 777 11 11.
Now that is a commercial that you did, and I know that it actually, that it's a personal injury law firm. They had even a spot on the local news where they were talking about their commercial. And so tell me a little bit about how you hooked up with them.
It's quite comical, actually. So Marty's a friend of mine, Marty Cole. And I can't remember the exact conversation, but it was something along the lines of, hey, I noticed you changed your phone number. Is your phone number really 777-1111? And he was, yeah, why? And I was like, don't worry about it. And I was just like looking for sounds and samples and just trying to create something. And I started just kind of saying like 777, okay, 777, 1111. And I just kind of like wrote this rap and I actually rapped it. It's funny. So I rapped it. If you can imagine the Yin Yang Twins, like I whisper rapped it. I was like, I recorded myself doing this and actually linked up with someone on Fiverr.com. It's actually he's a rapper. He does the same thing. He makes jingles. Like he'll write a jingle and do a video for businesses that are trying to get up and running. But I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, I got the music, I've got the lyrics. I just want you to rap this back to me. So I paid him, and he killed it the first take. He actually sent me back a whisper, just like I did it, and then he sent me back a rap. And I was like, oh, okay, we're definitely taking the actual rap where you can hear the lyrics. And I presented it to Marty, and he loved it. And they worked with Video Bread. It's had amazing videos, complemented it perfectly. And
right. You can't... You definitely can't appreciate, the fact that we're listening to it. People can't appreciate the video that goes along with it. It's definitely, it was definitely made to like not take things too seriously, and it was, it's definitely meant to be something that people remember. And it's definitely true for like a lot of other advertisements and things you see. Like I could probably name other brands or companies, and it probably would be absolutely nothing for you off the top of your head to like think of the jingle or the sound that goes with it. Like the Shane Company, I could quote you the whole Shane Company commercial right now. And it's just the guy's voice, because it's so monotone and it's so flat, and there's really not like a whole lot of inflection in it, but it's effective. So I know you never really considered yourself, I guess, a jingle guy. That never really, I don't know if that was on your radar, but it definitely seems to be a talent of yours. What is it that you think, I guess what I'm saying, what sort of benefit do you think it is for a company to give them a catchy jingle? It doesn't have to be like, the one we listen to, but what sort of benefits do you think a company gets out of that?
Good question. I would say first and foremost is outreach. If you have a service where you can help people need to know about it. And the best way to get them to know about it is there's multiple channels of advertising. There's social media, there's all this, there's all that. But if you have a catchy thing that people are going to remember, when they, for instance, if you get in a car wreck and you're kind of going to be befuddled, like, what do I do? What do I do? You're probably going to have that number stuck in your head, so you're just going to be like, I'm going to call them. As opposed to like going, that's just what, I think that's the way that would work.
It's definitely a catchy jingle. It sticks in your head. It's like it's the repetitive nature of the phone number, coupled with the video, being sort of over the top and silly. Like it's something that I remembered that commercial. I saw it months back, and I remember the phone number today.
Nice. Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. I want to play this one. This is for Connor's Flooring.
All right.
Hi, I'm Jamie Connor, and this is Daisy May, and we're with Connor's Flooring and Home Solutions.
Countertops, cabinets? We didn't know you did that. Bathroom remodels? We didn't know you did that. Flooring solutions, wall to wall. Call Connors. We do it all.
So, they had the words that went along with it. Did they provide the words, and you just sort of provided sort of that funky guitar riff, or did you pretty much write everything?
I wrote the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was just we met at Video Bread, and there's a conversation between Video Bread and Jamie Connor, and just kind of listened to all the things they were saying. I took like 3 pages of notes and basically just circled things they were saying, and just built that around solutions they were looking for.
I definitely think, music plays such a big role in everything, and I feel like the sound being just right, it just makes everything so much more memorable. I mean, you think of a flooring commercial, it's something that's so day to day and something that could be not exciting or not very fun, and it was a very upbeat commercial. Like, I think it was definitely effective. I think the music, sort of had that sort of funky tone. Did they say that was sort of the feel that they were going for?
I think the words Jamie used were, we want, he said, we like the Hessig and Pole commercial. We want something kind of funny, but a little more serious. I think those were his words.
Right.
So I tried to capture that. I think that's the way it went.
I wonder if Hessig and Pole, if they got that phone number with the full intent of it being just so easy to remember, if that was just a happenstance. I'm just sort of wondering, like, do you have any idea?
I don't know, but I think it's a good move. I think it was definitely conscious. Like, okay, this number is easy because, I mean, that's like, if I look at every other law commercial, their pillar of what they're pushing is the phone number.
Right.
It seems that way.
It's like if you,
it's a smart move.
Right. I mean, if you're going to be in a car accident or you're going to have an injury, you're probably going to be panicked and probably have pretty shaken up, and remembering a phone number, and especially now, like with everybody's phone numbers being programmed in their cell phones, it's like hardly anybody really remembers phone numbers anymore.
Right.
Like I remember when I was a kid, you'd have all these numbers memorized, and the only way you were going to get a hold of anybody is through a payphone or somebody's phone. And now, I remember years ago I was out with my wife, girlfriend at the time, and I remember we were out somewhere and somebody, I can't remember the situation, but they had asked me for her phone number, and I took a split second. I'm like, I've been with this person for a while, and I'm like, what was her phone number again? You just don't remember phone numbers anymore.
Right. It's too convenient to just put it in the phone and have Siri do all the work for you.
Absolutely. So what other projects do you have on the horizon? Is there anything you can discuss?
I have a couple things going on. I want to use this jingle thing. Has been fun because it's interesting and people like it, and I love that. But I want to use it to make noise and show people what I can do across genres. I'm really using this to pitch to artists. So it's like I've been making music for 20 years, whether that means I've been strumming a guitar or learning something into hip-hop beats or whatever. It's been a long journey until now. Finally get my foot in the door. Jingles are happening. I'm basically saying, hey, this is what I can do. And the next step is producing with artists.
Absolutely. I just want to read this from your website for people to get familiar with. This is from powerfulbeats.com. It says, John Power believes the right music blended with a compelling vision creates a powerful impact. He has had a lifelong fascination with sound and how it plays an influential role in inspiring moods and creating emotions. As a self-taught guitar player beginning the journey over 20 years ago, including 13 years experience composing, producing, recording, John has developed an intuition for emulating instrumental vibes that span a variety of musical genres. Blues to rock, hip-hop to EDM, jazz to jingles, and many others. Whether you are a creative musical artist or business expert, John aims to enhance your vision with an impactful musical experience. And then you say, let's create the musical canvas that inspires your audience to feel your vision. So what?
Sounds really cool. I haven't looked at that in a while, so that sounds pretty good to me.
It definitely does. So when you say, create the musical canvas that inspires them to feel your vision, that's definitely something that seems pretty difficult to do. So what? So I'm just trying to. So how would you explain that? I guess in other ways, like I guess expand on that.
All right. So along the lines of production, it's kind of seeing pieces that you want to be in a song. And one of the things I like doing is I like different people's voices. I don't see my voice on a rap song, but I may see other people's voice on a rap song, or I may sing a singer on a certain song. not necessarily even writing what I want them to say, but if I can create a musical piece that inspires them to tell their story on top of it, then there's a nice marriage of a production there. So whether it's a funky pop song or an R&B song or a rap song, anything that I felt emotion around, just the instrumental vibe that I may create, it's exciting to me to know if an artist is looking for something that they can tell their story on, and they hear something I make, then we have a good solid base to work on. So it's like the music is kind of like a canvas, and the artist is taking the brushes and saying, "This is what I want to do with what you've given me."
Right. So, right now on a personal note, like who are you listening to right now? What are you really feeling these days as far as other artists? Like, people's tastes sort of jump over periods of time. Sort of, what are you listening to these days?
Man, the first thing I thought of when you said that is, I don't know if you've listened to Billie Eilish, but have you heard any of her songs?
I've heard a few of her songs. I've not listened to all of her stuff, but I've definitely heard some things. She's definitely been out there.
Yeah, so I'm late to the Billie Eilish game. It's honestly, there's lots of music I still need to catch up on, but since the COVID, the quarantine, everything, I've been focusing more on what music is out there, what's good, and I'm telling you, man, Billie Eilish, the song, let's see, what was it? Everything I Wanted. Just sitting here listening with my mixing headphones, and the mix in that, the whole album actually is amazing, and it just blew me away. So that's a quick answer to your questions. Definitely listen to Billie Eilish if you appreciate amazing production, amazing vocal panning techniques. Oh man, it just blew me away.
Yeah, I've listened to a few of her songs. I'm not 100% familiar with all of her stuff, but she's definitely, she's definitely out there, definitely has her own style. Like, I think that's the one thing that sets, if you're going to be an artist in her shoes or, somebody else's shoes, I think you got to be that one that definitely stands out. And when, you listen to it and immediately, this is this person. Like, there's no question whenever Lady Gaga comes on, whether you're a fan of hers or not, or if you like her music or not, the moment her vocals come on, there's no question, like, that is Lady Gaga singing.
Right.
I think there's so many different musicians out there. I think the moment you find somebody that sounds individual and sounds like their own person, I think those are the ones that definitely have the real staying power. I think Billie Eilish, I think she definitely has that potential as well.
Oh yeah, I'm with you.
So, as far as your musical tastes go, so you're liking her. Is there anybody else that you've been listening to?
I've actually been creating more than I've been listening, so I need to switch that up. I can absorb a lot more when I'm listening more. Let's see, who have I been listening to? I go back and listen to like 90s hip hop, like Outkast, or I'll switch it up and listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan, playing some blues. I take from all different kinds of things, depending on. I'll switch over and even listen to like Dave Matthews or like Jack Johnson, just a wide variety of different moods. I'm flirting with working on country songs. I didn't really grow up listening to country, but I'm learning different elements about country, like some of the techniques they use and the way their sound is huge if you listen really closely to their music, and that's just a fascinating piece to me. So their songwriting styles are impressive. They have catchy lyrics, and there's a lot of good stories in country. They convey that very well. So I'm flirting with how they create that. It'd be awesome to find a country artist to work with.
Absolutely. Country was definitely never one of the genres of music that I listened to, but I mean, I think probably similar to you. I think if I hear something, it doesn't matter what genre it is, I will appreciate it if it's something that I feel, if it's something that strikes me. There are country songs that I have heard that have blown me away. It just, It just comes down to the feeling that you get from it. But I definitely have never, sought out listening to country. It was never my cup of tea, but I can definitely appreciate it. Sometimes I even, listening to techno or house music. I think sometimes I'm sort of feeling that as well.
Yeah.
Or hip hop, like you were saying. Like I said, if I'm listening to it and it's something that is connecting with me, and I think the same thing with the jingles that you're creating and stuff is, as long as it's connecting with somebody, it's making that connection and that impact, something memorable. It's not easy to do. So what as far as doing your own writing and your own vocals and your own, you're kind of doing it all. Do you do very many of your own vocals, or do you pretty much, leave that up to other people you're collaborating with?
The only vocals I will do is what I would compare to when you're doing a rough draft for a paper in like middle school, and they tell you to do a rough draft, and you just scribble something out and save that, and then there's like 5 more drafts, and you have your final draft. The vocals will be just me, like either speaking in my phone or recording it just so I can remember what I said, or so I can present it to an artist and say, "Here's what I want you to do." I don't see my vocals being on a finished product, at least at this point.
Right. Well, so what other sort of musical instruments do you play?
Let's see. I play guitar, but it's not so much that I'm continuously learning. It's more like a writing tool. I'll strum around, I'll hear a vibe, and basically learn something as I'm going, and then practice it 1,000 times until it sounds ready to record. Then I'll record it and basically forget what I did. So there's that. I can play bass as needed, and then I have a MIDI keyboard, which is basically plugged into the computer, and I can emulate different instruments, whether I need cellos or violins or trumpets or anything. It's just kind of trial and error until I find the right tones, and then I can match them up, and that's the beauty of digital software. You can just push a button and then make it sound like anything you want, and that opens the floodgates for creativity.
Right. Just a interesting factoid. Do you know who Ray Kurzweil is?
Yeah, I've heard the name.
Yeah, I know he was the one, I think, that invented the original synthesizer. I think he was the one that sort of paved the way. I mean, he's a futurist and an inventor, but that when you said that was he was the first name that popped into my mind was Ray Kurzweil.
Yeah.
He is a smart guy. He's out there.
Yep.
But created the synthesizer. I feel like that has definitely like reinvented and changed the whole music game. I think without that invention, we'd be having a whole different thing these days.
Yes, for sure.
So how long, a company approaches you and they say, "I want to make a jingle. This is what we're about. This is generally what we're looking for." About how long generally do you think it would take you from beginning to end to create a finished product for somebody?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. The Hessig and Pohl thing took about an hour and a half from inception to paying the rapper to do what I wanted to do. So that was like really quick.
An hour and a half?
It was really quick. It was just like nobody was asking me to do anything. It was just kind of like, what am I going to do today? Oh, okay, 777 11. Okay, I got a rap, and I'm just going to do this thing and just see what it sounds like. And it was just so quick. The Connors thing took me, a week from the moment I was approached to thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Do they have a unique phone number? Am I going to go the same rap route? Like, what am I going to do now? To then when we finally met up and had the meeting, and after I left the meeting, I had material to work with. So it's like there's not a set time limit that I can say I put on things. But if I come up with it organically, it's much quicker.
Right. I think that's the thing with any creative product or creative project. With all you creative types, is sometimes it just falls. It's like it just falls out of the sky. Seemingly, sometimes you'll see that people create something and it ends up being like amazing. And like the lead singer of the Smashing Pumpkins, what was that song? He like woke up from a dream and he wrote it.
Billy Corgan.
Billy Corgan. Was that tonight or something? Was it that song?
I don't know the story behind that. That's pretty cool.
He like woke up from a dream and then he just wrote the song. And I feel like it doesn't always happen. Obviously it's a struggle and it's work and it's hard, and some days it's like, you're really getting, into the grind and it takes time, and then other times it just falls into your lap just out of the sky. It's always interested me how that works. Have you ever, do you ever find that there's a particular time of day or something that you're doing or just something that helps facilitate that? Or is it just one of those things where you just never know when it's going to hit?
I wish I had a really cool answer for you, but I just never know it's going to hit. I'm still trying to figure that out. If I can just find a way to squeeze the juice all the time, that would be...
Right. Yeah. And that was sort of the answer I was half expecting. I think if anybody knew, exactly what the formula was, to create something like that, I think there would be a lot more people like you, that are creating things all the time, because they can just find that rhythm. But you just never know when it's going to hit.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I will say that there's a lot of time spent making garbage. like, okay, I'm going to sit down. I'm in the mood to create something, and then hours go by, and it's like, I don't even like what I'm doing here. And then days will go by doing that. And just there's so many things that it's like it's necessary to do that type of work, because then you kind of stumble and you accidentally hit the wrong note and then changes the whole thing, and you're like, that note is what I'm building this whole thing off of. And it's just like you gotta push through the garbage to find something that's worth working on.
Absolutely. And that's something that struck me when you were saying that, is I know you're familiar with who Gary Vaynerchuk is.
Oh, yeah.
And for anybody that's listening that, is not familiar with him, I would definitely recommend looking him up, an entrepreneur. But long story short, it's always better to just push out the content and just make and do rather than thinking and pondering and scheming and taking the time and worrying about perfection. And you're probably going to, like a writer he's probably going to write, a million garbage pages in his life until eventually he gets just those few pages that are just perfect. Or, a musician who's going to create that piece, and, you're probably going to create a lot of things where the customer's going to be like, this isn't going to work, and, you're probably going to have to go back to the drawing board, and something that Gary Vaynerchuk said is 1 is always greater than 0. It's better to produce than to not produce. It's, the best way to get into action and to do anything is to just do. And I feel like that's definitely true, in your field as well. It's some days you probably don't feel like making anything. And you just force yourself to buckle down and just, even if you don't even know what it is you're going to do, you buckle down and you just start creating. How often do you just have jam sessions where you just let it go, just to see what comes out?
All the time.
Do you think that's important?
Oh, absolutely. And what you just said I think it's really well said. And I think it's applicable to any profession. It's like, if it's in music or writing or whatever, you have to go through the garbage. You're literally giving yourself experience that you can draw from. Everything that you think you didn't take, you did something in there, and and now you can try not to do that more, or try to do this more, or that piece sounded right. And you're flexing a muscle in your brain saying, do this, not that. You're basically teaching yourself how to arrive at something better.
Absolutely. I think that was also very well said. always pushing for that thing that's going to be better, and pushing the envelope, and to say, I've never used this instrument before, or I've never tried this, or what happens if I turn this up, and tweaking the dials and stuff, perfecting
That's the language. That's the language for sure. Definitely. What does this do? Oh, that creates an entire song. Okay.
Right. That's same true like with an artist too, who's creating paintings or pictures or drawings or whatever, they're gonna experiment with this type of paint, or they're gonna do, one day they're gonna use acrylic, or they're gonna use oil, or this week they might use pastels. It's just like pushing the envelope to just try to see, and it's all about just making yourself better. It's all about making yourself like the best, whatever it is that you could be. And I think there's definitely no way better to do that than to just do. So I think that's definitely an important message for everybody to hear.
Right on, man.
But I want to thank you for coming on the show and talking with me. We definitely definitely want to have you on again if you're up for it.
Yeah, this is great. I'm glad you're doing this. This is cool. Speaking of someone that's doing stuff, you're doing it.
Absolutely. We're definitely trying to put a positive message out there. It's all about everybody being their best selves, the best version of themselves, being positive. And there's definitely a lot of negativity out there in the world, and this is all about just giving something back. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, man, I'm all for that.
So thank you for coming on the show. If you want to hang tight for just 1 second. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you next time on the No Parameters podcast. My name is Mark. I'm your host. We will see you later.